The desperate message. The signal came from the edge of known space, crackling through the quantum communication array at Luna Station, like a whisper from another world. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been monitoring deep space frequencies for 15 years, searching for signs of intelligent life among the stars. What she found that Tuesday morning would change humanity forever. The transmission was unlike anything in their databases. It pulsed with mathematical patterns that spoke of desperate intelligence, of minds crying out across the vast darkness between stars. Elena's hands trembled as she ran the signal through their translation protocols, watching as alien symbols slowly transformed into words that made her blood run cold. "We are the Keltharian Republic," the message began, its tone carrying the weight of a dying civilization. "Our worlds burn under the advance of the Vorthan Collective. Our children hide in the ruins of our greatest cities. Our fleets are broken, our hope nearly gone. To any who receive this transmission, we beg for assistance. We have tried to resist, but we are scholars and artists, not warriors. The Vorthans show no mercy. They consume everything in their path." Elena's breath caught as she continued reading. The Keltharians described a nightmare scenario playing out across 17 star systems. The Vorthan Collective, a machine-like empire of cybernetic beings, had declared total war on all organic life in their sector of the galaxy. They didn't just conquer worlds, they strip-mined them completely, turning lush planets into lifeless husks to fuel their ever-expanding war machine. The message contained star charts, tactical data, and something that made Elena's heart ache: personal recordings from Keltharian families saying goodbye to loved ones they would never see again. She listened to the voice of a Keltharian mother singing a lullaby to her child, knowing it might be the last song she would ever sing. She heard the final transmission from a research station as Vorthan ships closed in, the scientist calmly recording observations even as death approached. Elena immediately contacted the Global Defense Initiative headquarters in Geneva. Within hours, the most important people on Earth were gathered in an emergency session. Captain Zora Thorne, humanity's most decorated space commander, sat across from President Chen Martinez and a dozen other world leaders. The alien message played on holographic displays around the conference room, its haunting plea echoing off the walls. 17 systems, said General Harrison Webb, his weathered face grim. According to their data, the Keltharians had a population of over 4 billion. The Vorthans have already destroyed 12 of their worlds completely. The remaining 5 are under siege. President Martinez leaned forward in her chair. "What do we know about the Vorthans themselves?" Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's leading xenobiologist, activated her tablet. Based on the Keltharian data, they're a collective consciousness of cybernetic beings who view organic life as inefficient and wasteful. They've been expanding across this galaxy for thousands of years, consuming every civilization they encounter. They don't negotiate, they don't show mercy, and they never retreat. Captain Thorne studied the tactical displays showing the Keltharian star systems. The distance to their territory is significant. Even with our newest quantum dry ships, it would take us 3 weeks to reach them. By then, it might be too late. "That's assuming we decide to go at all," said Chancellor Brooks from the European Federation. "We're talking about getting involved in an alien war. We don't know these Keltharians. For all we know, this could be a trap." The room erupted in debate. Some argued that Earth should remain hidden and safe, protecting humanity first. Others insisted that any species capable of such eloquent pleas for help deserved assistance. The argument continued for hours, with passionate voices on both sides. Finally, President Martinez called for silence. She stood and walked to the window overlooking Lake Geneva, where the sun was setting behind the mountains. "I keep thinking about something my grandmother told me when I was young," she said quietly. She survived the global unity wars, saw entire cities burn to ashes. She said the worst thing about those dark times wasn't the violence itself. It was how many good people stood by and did nothing while others suffered. She turned back to face the room. These Keltharians are asking for help against an enemy that wants to destroy all organic life. If we ignore their plea and the Vorthans continue expanding, how long before they reach Earth? How long before we're the ones sending desperate messages into space, hoping someone, anyone, will care enough to help? The vote was closer than Alina had hoped, but it passed. Earth would send a rescue mission to the Keltharian systems. Captain Thorne would command a fleet of humanity's most advanced ships, carrying supplies, weapons, and something the galaxy hadn't seen in a very long time: hope. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation. The human fleet consisted of 12 ships, including the massive carrier vessel, Indomitable, that served as the flagship. Captain Thorne handpicked her crew from volunteers across Earth's military forces. She chose people who understood that they might never return home, but who believed that some things were worth fighting for. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rivera, a tactical genius who had never lost a simulation battle, would serve as Thorne's second in command. Chief Engineer Rosa Delgado had designed half the systems they would be using. Communications Officer David Park spoke 7 Earth languages and had spent months learning Keltharian from their transmissions. Medical Officer Dr. James Okafor had volunteered despite having 3 young children at home, saying he couldn't stand by while an entire species faced extinction. As the fleet prepared for departure, Alina Vasquez received another transmission from the Keltharians. This message was shorter, more desperate. Only 3 of their worlds remained. The Vorthans were massing for a final assault on Kelthar Prime, the Keltharian homeworld where nearly 1 billion survivors had taken shelter. They had maybe a week before the end came. Captain Thorne read the message on the bridge of the Indomitable as her fleet prepared to jump to quantum space. Around her, the best of humanity's warriors made final preparations for a battle that would determine the fate of 2 species. The odds were overwhelming, the enemy unknown, and the distance almost impossibly vast. "All ships report ready for quantum jump," announced Lieutenant Park from his communications station. Thorne looked out at the stars through the main view screen. Somewhere out there, among those distant lights, an entire civilization was counting down its final hours. They had asked the universe for help, and humanity had answered. Whether that would be enough remained to be seen. "Initiate quantum drive," she ordered. "All ships, jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The stars stretched into lines of light as the human fleet vanished into quantum space, racing across the galaxy toward a war that would test everything humanity claimed to believe about courage, compassion, and the responsibility of the strong to protect the weak. Behind them, Earth continued its peaceful orbit around the sun, unaware that its children were about to fight their first battle among the stars. In the quantum void between space and time, 12 human ships pushed their engines to the limit, carrying hope toward the darkness and the desperate voice that had called out for heroes. The universe was about to learn what happened when humanity decided to fight for something bigger than themselves. The journey to the Keltharian systems would take 3 weeks at maximum speed. 3 weeks to plan, to prepare, and to hope they wouldn't arrive too late to make a difference. 3 weeks for humanity to prove that sometimes, when the stars themselves call for heroes, the right answer is to answer that call with everything you have. Humanity's answer. The human fleet dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Kelthar system and found themselves staring at the end of a world. Captain Zora Thorne gripped the arms of her command chair as the main screen filled with images that would haunt her dreams forever. The beautiful blue and green planet that the Keltharians called home was surrounded by a ring of fire and death. Massive Vorthan ships, each one the size of a small city, hung in orbit like mechanical vultures. Their black hulls bristled with weapons that had turned the surface of Kelthar Prime into a hellscape of burning cities and poisoned seas. Smaller Vorthan fighters swarmed through space like angry insects, hunting down the last few Keltharian ships that still dared to fly. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rivera, staring at the tactical display. "There are over 300 Vorthan vessels in this system. Our intelligence was wrong. This isn't just a conquest fleet, It's an extermination armée. Communications Officer David Park worked frantically at his station, trying to establish contact with any surviving Keltharian forces. Captain, I'm picking up scattered transmissions from the surface. Most of Kelthar Prime's major cities have been destroyed, but there are still pockets of resistance holding out in the mountain regions. Chief Engineer Rosa Delgado ran continuous scans of the Vorthan ships, analyzing their technology and looking for weaknesses. Their ships are heavily armored, but they're using a lot of energy to maintain their orbital bombardment. If we could somehow disrupt their power systems. Captain Thorne studied the battlefield with the eye of a warrior who had fought in dozens of conflicts across Earth's solar system. The Vorthans were positioned like conquerors who had already won, not expecting any real resistance. Their formation was designed for maximum destruction of the planet below, not for defense against an attack from outside the system. All ships maintain stealth protocols, she ordered quietly. We have one advantage: they don't know we exist yet. The human fleet had approached from the outer edge of the system, using the gravity well of a gas giant to mask their signatures. For now, the Vorthans remained focused on their systematic destruction of everything that lived on Kelthar Prime. That gave Thorne time to plan an attack that would have to be perfect, because humanity would only get one chance. Dr. James Okafor, the fleet's chief medical officer, was monitoring alien transmissions when he made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, I'm detecting Keltharian biosignatures in one of the Vorthan ships. They're keeping prisoners. The revelation hit the bridge like a physical blow. The Vorthans weren't just destroying the Keltharians, they were capturing them. Park quickly translated several intercepted communications that painted a horrifying picture. The Vorthans were using Keltharian prisoners for experiments, trying to understand organic intelligence so they could create more efficient ways to destroy it. We can't just attack, said Rivera grimly. If we start a battle, they'll kill the prisoners immediately. Thorne closed her eyes and thought about the problem like her old tactical instructor had taught her. Every battle had a key moment, a single decision that would determine victory or defeat. She needed to find that moment and strike with everything humanity had. Park, can you establish communication with the Keltharian resistance on the surface? Yes, Captain. Their equipment is damaged but still functional. Do it. And Rosa, I need you to analyze those Vorthan power systems. Find me a way to shut them down without destroying their ships. The next few hours were the most intense planning session of Thorne's military career. Working with the surviving Keltharian commanders on the surface, she developed a battle plan that was either brilliant or completely insane. The Keltharians would provide targeting data for their own planetary defense systems, which had been offline since the first day of the siege. The human fleet would use that data to strike at specific points in the Vorthan formation, creating chaos and confusion. At the same time, a small team of human commandos would board the Vorthan prison ship to rescue the captured Keltharians. It was dangerous beyond measure, but it was the only way to save innocent lives while striking a decisive blow against the enemy. Commander Elena Santos led the boarding team, 12 of humanity's best Special Forces soldiers equipped with the latest stealth technology. They launched from the Indomitable in a modified shuttle that looked like space debris, drifting silently toward the Vorthan prison ship while the main battle erupted around them. The attack began at exactly 800 ship time. The human fleet dropped their stealth systems and opened fire with everything they had. Quantum torpedoes streaked across space like falling stars, striking Vorthan ships at precisely calculated points. The aliens had expected overwhelming firepower, but the humans used precision instead, targeting critical systems with surgical strikes. Rosa Delgado's analysis proved perfect. The human weapons disrupted Vorthan power grids, causing cascade failures throughout their fleet. Ships that had been bombarding the planet suddenly found themselves dead in space, their weapons offline and their shields failing. The Keltharians on the surface took advantage of the chaos to bring their planetary defense systems back online. Massive energy beams lanced up from hidden installations in the mountains, adding their firepower to the human assault. For the first time in months, the Keltharians were fighting back with real hope in their hearts. But the Vorthons were not helpless. Their collective consciousness adapted quickly to the human tactics, and soon space filled with return fire. Vorthon beam weapons, designed to crack planets, focused on the human ships with deadly intensity. The frigate Courage took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire, taking 37 brave souls with it. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Thorn ordered as her own ship shook under enemy fire. Focus on their command vessels. If we can disrupt their collective consciousness, they'll lose coordination. Meanwhile, Commander Santos and her team had successfully boarded the Vorthon prison ship. What they found inside would fuel nightmares for years to come. The Vorthons had turned the ship into a laboratory of horrors, conducting experiments on Keltharian prisoners in their quest to understand organic life. 37 Keltharian survivors, Santos reported through her comlink. They're weak but alive. We're moving them to the extraction point now. The rescue team fought through corridors filled with Vorthon drones, using human tactics that the collective consciousness couldn't predict. Where the Vorthons expected logical, efficient responses, the humans used creativity, improvisation, and sheer stubborn courage. They rescued every single prisoner and fought their way back to their shuttle, leaving explosive charges throughout the ship that would detonate after their escape. The tide of battle turned when Dr. Okafor made another crucial discovery. Monitoring Vorthon communications, he realized that their collective consciousness had a central processing node aboard their flagship. If they could destroy that node, the entire Vorthon fleet would lose coordination. Captain. He called out over the sound of alarms and weapons fire. I found their command center. It's aboard that massive ship at the center of their formation. Thorn looked at the tactical display and saw the ship Okafor was talking about. It was 3 times the size of her flagship, bristling with weapons and surrounded by protective escorts. Getting close enough to attack it would be suicide for any normal ship. But the Indomitable wasn't normal. It was humanity's first true battleship, designed by Rosa Delgado herself to be the ultimate expression of human engineering. It carried experimental weapons that had never been tested in real combat, including a quantum ram that could theoretically punch through any defense. All ships, cover our approach, Thorn ordered. We're going in. The Indomitable charged straight at the heart of the Vorthon formation, its guns blazing and its shields straining under massive return fire. The other human ships followed, creating a corridor of destruction through the enemy fleet. Keltharian defense platforms added their own fire, turning space into a storm of energy and exploding metal. The quantum ram fired at point-blank range, tearing through the Vorthon flagship's hull like paper. The explosion that followed lit up half the star system as the collective consciousness's central node overloaded and died. Across the battlefield, Vorthon ships suddenly stopped coordinating their attacks, becoming isolated targets instead of a unified fleet. The battle lasted another 6 hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Cut off from their collective intelligence, the remaining Vorthon ships were systematically destroyed by the combined human Keltharian forces. Some tried to flee, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. By the time the sun set on Kelthar Prime, the skies were clear of enemy vessels for the first time in 8 months. Captain Thorn stood on the bridge of her damaged but victorious flagship, watching as Keltharian rescue ships rose from the surface to help with recovery operations. The cost had been terrible, 4 human ships destroyed and over 200 casualties, but they had saved an entire civilization from extinction. The first Keltharian to come aboard the Indomitable was Prime Scholar Veltar, the elected leader of the resistance movement. He was tall and graceful, with skin that changed color based on his emotions and large eyes that held depths of wisdom and sadness. When he met Captain Thorn in the ship's conference room, his skin glowed with colors that their translator said meant profound gratitude. "Your species has given us a gift beyond measure," he said in accented but clear English. "You answered our call when we had lost all hope. Why? What do you gain from helping us?" Thorn thought about the question for a long moment. "We've learned something over the centuries of our own development," she finally said. "The universe can be a dark and dangerous place, but it becomes a little brighter every time someone chooses to help instead of looking away. Your people called for help, and we couldn't ignore that call and still call ourselves human." Veltar's skin shifted to colors that meant wonder and understanding. "Your species is young in galactic terms, but you have wisdom that many older civilizations have forgotten. The Keltharian Republic offers humanity our eternal friendship and alliance." The weeks that followed brought revelations that would reshape both civilizations. The Keltharians shared their advanced medical technology and their knowledge of other species throughout the galaxy. The humans provided military expertise and something even more valuable: the knowledge that in a vast and often cruel universe, there were still people willing to fight for what was right. Earth's emergence as a galactic power was not without controversy. Several alien civilizations demanded to know why humanity had involved itself in affairs beyond their own solar system. The answer came from an unexpected source: the survivors of 17 other species that the Vorthons had destroyed over the centuries. They had been watching humanity's first interstellar war, and they had seen something that gave them hope. A coalition of surviving civilizations approached Earth with a proposal that would echo through history. They wanted humanity to help establish a Galactic Protection Alliance, an organization dedicated to defending peaceful species from aggressive empires like the Vorthons. Captain Thorne, promoted to admiral after her victory at Kelthar, became the Alliance's first human commander. Years later, as Admiral Thorne stood in the Memorial Garden on New Geneva Station, reading the names of those who had died in humanity's first interstellar war, she often thought about that first desperate message from the Keltharians. It had been a test, though neither species had known it at the time. The universe had asked humanity a simple question: when someone calls for help across the vast darkness between stars, what do you do? Humanity's answer had been simple and definitive: you go. You fight. You don't ask what's in it for you or whether the odds are in your favor. You go because it's right, because it's what makes you human, and because sometimes the most important battles are fought not for conquest or glory, but for the simple principle that good people should never stand alone against the darkness. The galaxy had learned what happened when Earth's children decided to answer a call for help. They had learned that humanity possessed something rarer and more valuable than advanced technology or superior firepower: the unshakable belief that everyone deserved a chance to live free from fear, and the courage to fight for that belief no matter the cost. In the Memorial Garden, surrounded by flowers from 17 different worlds, Admiral Thorne smiled as she watched human and Keltharian children playing together in the artificial sunlight. The universe was indeed a brighter place when people chose to help instead of looking away, and humanity had made that choice when it mattered most, ensuring that the stars would never again call for heroes in vain.